Hello, everybody. How are you doing? Are we doing good? Do we have a good day? Or a good day so far? I want to first thank the Design Code Build team for inviting me here today. I am so impressed to see so many students on a Saturday. I know that's a big deal, exploring the exciting world of computer programming. And I'm especially impressed and pleased with seeing so many mentors helping guide you through this exciting field. So kudos to all of you for taking the time to invest in yourself this way. I'm very humbled by this rock star title. I don't get called that very often, so that's very, very nice. So I thought I would take today's talk to share a little bit about my career journey, as well as some of the moments in my career where I felt like a rock star, and the mentors who helped me and guided me through those moments to help me achieve those milestones. So let's go back to the beginning. I was born and raised in San Jose. How many of us are from San Jose? Local. Born and raised in San Jose. I was always a very curious child, as evidenced by my snooping around in my dad's desk, as well as my curious sense of fashion. It was also a time when I remember I would spend hours alone as a child just reading books and getting lost in my imagination. And I was also always wanting to build things. I remember just playing with dirt or sand or food or clay and just trying to create new things with any medium. As I got older, that curiosity stuck with me, and I started gravitating towards the fields of math and science, or the subjects of math and science. How many of you like math and science? Excited by it? Well, for me, these were my favorite subjects when I was in middle school. I remember that it helped me explain the world and make sense of things through numbers and scientific theories. And it was something that the concepts just clicked for me, and I wanted to just kind of dig deeper and learn more. But around the time of middle school, I realized, even though I was good at these subjects, there was a skill that was holding me back. And that skill was public speaking. I was terrified of speaking in front of people. How many of you like speaking up in class, speaking in front of audiences? Well, when I was a middle schooler, like some of you, I didn't want to raise my hands. I only talked when I had to. I much preferred writing out my thoughts and expressing them verbally. I even remember in 8th grade, we had a final project. It was one of our big projects of the year, and we had to deliver a 10-minute speech in front of the class on World War II. And we were allowed just one note card where we can put our speaking points down. But because I was terrified, I decided, okay, you know what? I'm just going to memorize the whole speech and go up there, because a note card's not going to help. So what do you think happened when I got up there? Yeah, after 2 sentences, I completely blanked. And to this day, I don't even know how long that pause was. It could have been an hour or minutes. But somehow I got through it. It was very painful. But I learned an important lesson, and it was to kind of address this fear and invest the time to develop the confidence to speak in front of others. So when I got to high school, I copied my best friend, and I signed up for speech and debate. How many of you have a speech and debate club in middle school? Or do any kind of public speaking? So I decided to sign up for it, not knowing what to expect. But thankfully, there was a coach. Her name is Mrs. Brasher. This was at Leland High School, and she's still there today. But she made all the difference for me. She cared so much about holding every student's hand through the world of public speaking, making it comfortable for them, making sure they delivered the best possible speech every time. Through her coaching and her mentorship, I was able to go to every tournament and stretch myself beyond my comfort zone. In fact, it started to pay off. I started getting recognized on the state level and the national level for public speaking. And this was all because I was able to find this amazing coach and mentor. So for somebody where the skill just years before, it terrified me, it froze me, this was a huge achievement. And I also realized Even though I was still excited about math and science, public speaking was able to help me in fields that I didn't think had anything to do with communication. I found myself contributing more to conversations in my math classes, finding internships, asking questions that really took my love for these subjects to another level. So my advice for you is no matter what it is, which is your skill or your talent or your favorite subject, please take the time to invest in the confidence to speak your mind and share your story. It will pay off, and people need to hear all the amazing ideas and thoughts that you have. So I worked hard, and I ended up going to Stanford for college, which made my parents very happy because I was only 30 minutes away from home. And when I got there, I still decided to dig deeper into math and science and physics, and I ended up declaring electrical engineering as my major because it had the most classes that I was excited about. So I was in the classes, I was enjoying the coursework, but I realized something. When I looked around, there weren't many women in the major. In fact, how many you want to guess in a class of about 100, how many girls there were in my class? Yes, 10. 5. 1, I was the only one. Yes? 3, good guess. Yeah, I think it was somewhere between 3 and 5 by the time we by the time we graduated. So there was not that many women to look up to, not many role models that I could identify with, and it was something that made me feel isolated at times, made me feel like I was different. It was challenging to sometimes stay focused because I didn't feel like I had a peer group that I could identify with and help me power through this rigorous major. Then one quarter, I decided to sign up for a digital design laboratory. And it had a very interesting final project. We had to make, what is this? We had to make an etch-a-sketch. Digitally design the circuitry to make the etch-a-sketch. So I was intrigued. This sounded cool. I remember playing with this when I was a kid. But when I got the paperwork for the assignment, I was very intimidated. It ended up being a pretty extensive assignment. And in fact, so much work that a lot of the students in the class were pairing up and working on teams to complete the final project. But I decided to stick with it. I said, you know what, let me see if I can power through this and make it happen. And I ended up discovering that I loved this. For a lot of reasons, one of which, I had to recreate the input dials that are on the Etch-a-Sketch. And so I went home and took my old Sega controller, game controller, and rewired it, which was so awesome to be the input for my Etch-a-Sketch. And it also really impressed my younger brother, which you know is no easy feat in the process. I realized that I loved digital circuit theory, and I would spend hours in the lab working on this, and it was like being a kid all over again, where I lost track of time, and I was building something with my hands. But instead of clay, I was building things with circuits, which was extremely empowering. I loved it so much that I decided to go above and beyond. So even though the basic requirements were to just create lines on a screen, I designed it so that it had different color input, different color pens, the backgrounds would change colors, and I got to make it my own and make it much more exciting than the Etch-a-Sketch you see in the toy store. And it paid off. I did very well on the project, and it gave me the confidence that I needed to start working on bigger engineering problems and realizing the mindset that you need to be successful. So when it was time to graduate, I decided to take my first job at an engineering company, Intel. Anybody have family who work at this company, or people who may have worked at this company? So I decided on Intel. And why did I decide to go to Intel after college? Well, at the time, we were at a very primarily a very desktop-oriented world. There were laptops, but they were very few and far between, and they were extremely heavy. They were really mini desktops in disguise that were not portable, and people left in their dorm rooms. So Intel was all about helping the world get more mobile, and that was dependent on them developing this chipset, the Intel Centrino chipset at the time, which would help with longer battery life, better wireless range, more power, and I was intrigued. This was a problem that I wanted to work on and be a part of. So I decided to join the mobility group, and I was enjoying the work, but one thing became clear. Intel is a very big company, as you may or may not know. How many employees do you think Intel has? 14,000. 14,000. Any other guesses? Yeah. 800,000. So somewhere in between. So 100,000. 100,000 employees. So extremely huge company. And as a recent college grad, it was easy to feel lost. It was easy to feel discouraged in terms of speaking up and sharing my work and advocating for myself. But I was lucky enough, I joined a team who had a senior member who really took me under his wing. He helped me, he introduced me to so many people across the organization, working on similar projects, different projects, so I had a range of people to talk to. He patiently answered every question that I had, and even I remember in team meetings, when I was too shy to contribute or answer the questions, he would give me credit. He said, you know, Nita contributed this idea, or she's working on this, and she's doing a great job with this, which gave me a lot of confidence to start speaking up for myself. It was through mentorship like that I developed the confidence to start taking bigger projects that were more highly visible. And I remember one of them at Intel was working on this event called Mobile Innovation Day. And Mobile Innovation Day was going to be this huge event at the company where all the senior leaders were going to be in attendance. And it was up to me to bring together all the amazing technologies in the pipeline that we wanted to bring in front of them. This event was really important because not only did it put it on the radar for these senior leaders, it also helped influence if they would go on the product roadmap. So I was in charge of this, and through the help of my mentor, I was able to work for many months across teams of hundreds of people to bring this event to life. And it was extremely well received by the senior leaders of the company, as well as the whole organization that I was representing. And that felt like such a huge win. It was through experiences like that when I went to Yahoo a few years later to just explore the world of product management. I realized the magic of working with amazing people and amazing mentors, which is why I decided to take a leadership role at Yahoo and become the co-president of the Women in Tech team, which was a 500-plus organization within the company dedicated to attracting, promoting, and retaining women in technology. We used to do so many amazing corporate-wide initiatives and events, and here we're posing with Carol Bartz, who was the CEO of Yahoo at the time, and one of our featured speakers. So we had tremendous support, and we were able to help these young women in a technology field showcase their contributions and their stories in an effective way. It was at this time when I was at Yahoo and a part of the leadership for this event, or for this organization, I got to meet a very special person. This is Dr. Maria Clave, and she is the president of Harvey Mudd College. She's also an extremely accomplished scientist and an advocate for diversity in STEM. And through my Yahoo Women in Tech days, I got to work with her on some events, and she is now somebody that I consider a very dear mentor, a personal mentor, as well as a friend. And she has a quote that still stays with me and gives me kind of that confidence boost that we all need from time to time, and she says this: I wake up most days with a voice in the left side of my head telling me what an incredible failure I am. But the voice on the right side tells me that I can change the world, and I try to pay more attention to it. And that quote has stayed with me, and her mentorship has stayed with me, because it was through mentors like Maria that I can look back to that young child who was kind of struggling through public speaking, and where I was able to link up with mentors like my speech and debate coach, or my electrical engineering professors, or the colleagues that helped me at work. And I realized that they were the ones that helped me shine and find my voice. Even though I was passionate about certain subjects, if it wasn't without them advocating for me and helping me through, it really helped change the trajectory that I was on. So it's never too early to find a mentor. And looking back, I wish when I was in middle school and in high school that I was more proactive about finding mentors and people that could help me with my professional, my academic, and my personal goals. And I commend all of you for coming to this event and doing just that, because it's through these kinds of relationships that you discover who you are and you discover your inner leader. Maria also encouraged me to do things that have a big impact, to do things that can change the world. And so I was looking back at all my experiences in tech and being a woman in tech specifically, or being just different in what I was doing, and the fact that I didn't feel like I had a voice earlier on, and I had to struggle through so many of those experiences my own way. And I decided to give back. So I decided to start this company called MissCEO. And what MissCEO does is we empower students and women with leadership skills, with mentorship, and with career exploration opportunities starting in middle school. And since we've started in 2011, we have personally worked with thousands of students all over the world to help them discover their inner leader. My goal is to empower everybody with this leadership toolkit to be the CEO of your life, regardless of what it is that you're interested in, your passion, whether it be STEM or something else. I feel like having the basic skills of learning how to network, learning how to negotiate, learning how to advocate for yourself can help you as early as being a middle school student. And I hope you all take the time to invest in that. There's something that I think happens a lot as you get older, and when I mean going into high school, there's a lot of focus on figuring out what your passion is. And on purpose, I don't like to use the word passion. I think it's so important to just explore, to fearlessly explore, and I think it will click for you. I think events like this help you do that, and I hope you keep signing up for events and programs that let you work hard on something, get your hands on something, try something new, stretches yourself, takes you outside of your comfort zone. This is really important. And then one day, I'm very confident, if you're exploring and you're developing all these skill sets and you're failing along the way, it will click, and you'll get to that coveted middle spot where you find this job or find this area of work that means something to you. So it was through the help of mentors, it was through exploring that took this little girl who was just curious about a lot of things but didn't really know how to implement what it is that she wanted, to this person who now, because of mentors and their help, I can proudly say I'm an engineer, I'm an educator, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm trying to do things that are bigger than I thought when I started my career, and it's a really amazing feeling. And I wish that for all of you. I hope that one day you can get on this course, even starting today, to explore and to create and have awesome mentors along the way. Thank you. Are there any questions? Yes.
So for the program, how long did it take you to actually develop the program?
The program for Stanford with the etchasketch?
Yes.
So that was a quarter-long project. So there were so many different components to it, and it was the end of the final project that we had to develop. So it was a quarter. So lots of different steps, but it felt awesome when it was done.
What did the etch-a-sketch look like?
I know, when I was putting this presentation together, I wish I had taken more pictures back then. It wasn't so easy where we had the cell phone, you documented everything. But I kept that Sega game controller. It was attached to a Xilinx board, and it had a VGA output, so just like a computer monitor. So it was very bulky looking. It's probably not as cute as the Etch-a-Sketch as you see, but it was more awesome in my opinion. Any other questions?
Yeah, so you're the CEO of MissCEO.
Yes.
Yes, and so what exactly? You had that circle: stuff you love to do, clearly; stuff you're good at, clearly; stuff someone will pay you to do. So what's the business model of MissCEO?
So we do a lot of educational programs. We've worked, and our customers are schools. We host a lot of programs at colleges like Stanford. We've worked with the State Department to put our curriculum in embassies around the world. We even work with Fortune 1000 companies who really care about the pipeline, as well as educating their own workforce on the significance of diversity in tech. So our customers are all across the spectrum, but we have a lot of different programs that we offer throughout the year. So I encourage all of you to check out our website on missceo.org. Any other questions?
So what's it like to be in a position where you don't have a voice, and how do you get through that if you don't have a mentor at the time? How do you get to the point where you can have a voice, and who do you seek out, and what are the steps you take? What would you recommend for that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think I did. So as I mentioned in my speech, I didn't do a very good job, I would say, even up until my early years as an engineer, reaching out for help. My standard equation, if you will, was, especially when you're so used to doing math and science, it's just, let's heads down, let's get this done, let's figure it out, let's struggle with it, we'll get the answer eventually. So I didn't really understand that skill set of reaching out to people for help. And I remember where it got very hard for me was in college, especially because I was one of a few women in a field. I felt very isolated, and the coursework was extremely challenging. So I decided at that point that something had to change, but I still figured I didn't know how to look out beyond just even my class or my major, because I didn't see any role models there. I didn't see a lot of women professors. I didn't see a lot of women in the field. So I just kind of continued to be challenged by the situation. I think the eye-opening experience was when I started working, and just by luck, I had someone on my team who was very good at mentoring and realized as a young college grad that I could use some of these skills in addition to my talents. And it was through learning that, actually, when I saw how he opened doors for me and helped me. One, I realized that because I was a woman, I didn't need to just have women mentors. And that could be true for any case that you think. A lot of times people are like, oh, I need to find somebody who looks exactly like me. I know that can help, and that can make you feel more comfortable. But honestly, mentors are all shapes, sizes, ages, and anyone who's passionate to help you and do anything to empower you, I would take their advice. I would try to work with them, and I think it's good to have a diverse set of mentors. And two, it was through those challenging moments that I realized how important it is, how many other young professionals like me were struggling through this. I was armed with an impressive academic background, and I was finding it extremely challenging. So that's when I decided to do something about it, and I started MissCEO literally started with me doing workshops to like 10, 20 people, anyone who would listen, of me just sharing practical advice of things that helped me. Like, this is how you negotiate your first paycheck. This is how you get yourself heard. This is how you work on the best projects. And it was through doing that, it took off. I was asked to speak all across the country, and people started saying, I wish I had learned this early on. This is awesome, but I wish we had learned these skills early on. And that's why I'm here today. That's why I speak to middle schoolers and high schoolers, because this is such an important skill set to have.
Say you have, you talked about inner ideas, right? So let's say you're thinking about a lot of ideas. How do you decide, you have many ideas. How do you decide which one to pick or, which direction to go? And how do you identify the mentor? for that, right? Identifying a mentor also, you need to either know their work or be able to connect with them. So how do you choose, this person to be a mentor, and then how do you reach out to them?
Right. I think for both of those, how do you decide what to do and how do you decide who to pair up with? It's really trial by error. I have no other, in my experience, I found for me, so much stuff was just stuck in my head. I had to get out of my head, which was like, oh, what if I did this? What if I worked here? What if I worked on this project? It was just all this internal conversation, but there was no action. Literally, things started clicking when I would just write an email to somebody that I never wrote, I was thinking about being my mentor, but never pressed send. Or volunteering or going to one of these camps or workshops to see what was this field, what is this project like, or maybe setting up coffee at somebody at a company that I wanted to learn more about. That's when things started clicking. And so I think it's really important to know, like, are you taking action when you're trying to figure all of this out, or is it still just all these internal conversations that we tend to have with ourselves, and we're not the best listeners to ourselves sometimes, or our best advocates. So just going out and send informational interviews. I highly recommend, as middle schoolers, to set up informational interviews with professionals, with students in college. I don't care if they're in a field that you like or not, but you will learn something new. And people love to talk about themselves, so they will most likely say yes, and they would love it if you treat them to coffee or lunch and share their wisdom with you. So you don't need to be older to have informational interviews with people. Any other questions?
Do any of the instructors or volunteers have questions they would like to ask?
All right,
I have
thank
a
you
question.
so much.
I've got a couple
Go ahead.
questions, actually.
Good.
So if you want to go out and learn something new, but you're really nervous about it, how do you overcome that? What kind of advice would you give someone to overcome that fear?
Taking the first step. So the thing I learned about stretching myself and failing is that it's like a muscle, right? Like, I think the first time it's really difficult, and we could be our worst enemy in trying something new. We can be very negative about the whole experience. But just knowing that it's going to be hard, that it's going to be challenging, and doing something as, maybe it sounds corny, but like saying that I'm going to stretch myself every single day. It doesn't even need to be about the field that you're interested in. But what you're doing is you're exercising that muscle of, going out, getting outside of your comfort zone, failing, messing up, making a fool of yourself, and realizing you're okay, and realizing it's fine. And I can guarantee that skill is transferable to anything that you want to do. I read somewhere in a book about leaders, and I think it was a book about all CEOs, like the Fortune 1000 CEOs. The one thing that a lot of them had in common was that they all participate in something extremely rigorous or challenging outside of their day job. So whether it's training for a marathon or writing a book or something that takes them outside, kite surfing, something that's unconventional, kind of rigorous, they may wake up early in the day to do it, like 4 a.m. to get it done. But the reason they do it is because they're in this challenging, high-stress job, and I'm sure they're having to navigate thousands of things a day. But this exercises that muscle in them to keep, thinking outside of the box, challenging themselves. And I think through that, just like as exercise and eating well is important, I think learning to stretch yourself is equally as important in that journey.
So to kind of feed off of that, what would be the final, words of advice that you would want to share with not only the students here today, but also the mentors as well?
I keep doing what you're doing. When I was a student, I did not go to events like this or even know that there were events like this. I don't think I had somebody that was a mentor, perhaps outside of my teacher at school. This is really doing you a world of good, being exposed to things like this as early as possible. Whether computer programming ends up being your thing or not, just have the confidence knowing that you did something new and you did something challenging, and what you learned today can probably be applied to anything it is you want to pursue. So give yourself a big pat on the back and keep doing this.
Thank you. Any last questions? All right, thank you so much. Let's give her one last round of applause.